right, let's talk about back-to-back long runs, B2B. Hi there, Hoka athlete and high running coach Sage Canaday here. The vlog update, yes, in this series, training for a 100-mile, 161K ultra marathon, the Javelina Jundred, that's with a J, coming up at the end of October here. We're gonna backtrack a couple weeks, my last couple weeks of training. It's October 10th now, but we're gonna look at the turn of the month where I put in a series of high mileage training weeks. Now, I've always preached high mileage, easy zone 2, aerobic base building, right? If you're training for a 100-mile race as a pro or a high-level athlete or trying to max out your potential, it's usually good to try to run at least 100 miles in a week. And not only that, but run maybe a fraction of the distance. Now, ultra running is a lot different from road marathon running, or actually I should say half marathons and 10Ks, because if you're training for a 5K or 10K, you might easily have a long run that's double the distance of your race distance. You get up to marathon, a lot of marathoners, even in my pro days at Hanson's Brooks when I ran 216, we topped out at 20-mile long runs, 32K, so you don't even run the full distance of the race. And with ultra marathons, it's even more extreme. No one really goes out that I know of and does like a 100-mile long run in training, because it would beat you up too much, right? Even a 50-mile long run, half the distance, is a really tall order, especially if you're doing trails with a lot of vertical gain. You might just do a fifth of the distance, or you might just go by time, go by 4 hours, 5 hours, time on feet, right? So we're breaking it down, we're trying to stress the body, and my goal with training, especially in this segment, we talked about the limiting factors and my struggles, at least in moving up in distance to the 100-mile distance. And a lot of it comes down to the two major limiting factors I see is skeletal muscular fatigue, so muscular endurance, so to speak, the pounding on the body, sheer muscle failure. It could be cramps, it could be blown out quads, it could be just working through a lot of pain as you go through these long distance races. Things start swelling up and you start limping and your form gets compromised, makes you inefficient. So there's the skeletal muscular stress, could lead to a stress fracture if you're overtraining or something like that, muscle strain, muscle tears. A lot of pain, that's a limiting factor, right? And then we also have a limiting factor in terms of hydration, nutrition, which I think has been one of my bigger issues. I experience a lot of pain too. I haven't trained a lot. So we're trying to callous the body with muscular endurance, high mileage training, back-to-back long runs, key of this talk. But we're also trying to dial in eating enough so that we don't run out of fuel. So glycogen being a limiting factor, glycogen in the muscles and the liver, we're starting to run low on that as we run. So we have to take in gels, trying to take in a drink mix, carbohydrate gels, trying to do, maybe I'm doing training for 100 grams of carbs per hour, got to do gut training for that. So if you don't take in the fuel to run at the high intensity power you need, you're going to run out of glycogen. Your muscles are also going to shut down and you're not going to be able to sustain a pace. So that's the other limiting factor. Could cause stomach distress though. So it's a double-edged sword. We're trying to take in a lot of carbs. We're trying to drink fluid to stay hydrated. Could also make us have nausea, stomach ache, stomach distress, even diarrhea, puking, right? Very common in ultras as a limiting factor. That's going to slow your pace down too, because if you're puking, you're losing fluid, you're losing carbs, you're not getting in the fuel, you're also getting massively dehydrated, you're also running on a nauseated state, nauseated stomach. It's probably going to slow down your pace too. So it's very hard. And that's just the physical component. We're not even talking about the mental gymnastics you might play as you get dehydrated or fatigued in a long distance ultra, which is almost inevitable. So trying to train the gut, trying to train the fluids. How do we do that while stressing the body at the skeletal muscular level and stressing the body at the aerobic level? So the final key on that is, of course, you also have to have aerobic fitness. You can't just show up and not have all that mitochondrial density, blood flow efficiency, heart and lung efficiency, or you would be running really hard up hills and your heart rate would skyrocket and you'd develop too much lactate. That's a limiting factor usually in half marathon, 10K, 5K, and shorter distance races is more of that peak VO2 max and that lactate levels. But in longer ultras, the VO2 max is still important. The aerobic development is still important. Burning some percentage of body fat relative to burning carbs is still important because these are all limiting factors, like I said. And I've been trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, being innovative in the training really hard. And so we'll get into this back-to-back long runs. The other week, actually September 24th, I tried to put in a high mileage week. We're talking about 120 miles of running in the week, 194 kilometers. I'm also doing some lightweight body weight exercises, leg lifts, Bulgarian split squats with a weight vest on. I'm doing single leg lunges, squats, deadlifts, callousing the legs, calf raises, weighted band training for the glutes. So doing strength training, but also running high mileage to get the legs super strong and work on all these things. But the back-to-back long runs, I think, are really key. And I did a marathon. Actually, it was 25.5 miles. I'll put that in kilometers there. I was out at near Air Force, Colorado Springs, between Monument and Colorado Springs. There's a canal trail or an old railway trail. It's more like a gravel road. So it's kind of the rough surface that I imagine Javelina is kind of like. And I'm running in my Rocket X2 road shoes for Hoka. I didn't get any video there, but I was wearing my Naked belt. Shout out to them for the free band, I should say, Naked running band. You could actually carry a 500 milliliter soft flask. I use Hydro Flask fluid in the back pocket while I carry the other one in my hand. So I'm carrying a liter of fluid without a pack, and then I'm stuffing my waistband also with my iPhone, my car keys, mainly the iPhone because I'm monitoring my sweat levels, but I also have SIS beta fuel gels, which are 40 grams of carbs each, fructose to glucose mix. And yeah, I'm running back and forth. I did 25.5 miles at, sub 3 hour marathon pace. If I kept going another, 3/4 of a mile, another 1.5 kilometers, I would have been around a 3 flat marathon. So pretty steady effort. You could see kind of the details of the run there. I guess it would have been a little over a sub 3 hour marathon if you look at the total elapsed time, but average heart rate 134, trying to keep it in that high end of zone 2 for me. And if we look at the Coros Training Cubs, shout out to them, sponsor plug, training dynamics, you see a lot of my mileage for this week was tied up in these back-to-back long runs. And again, back-to-back means consecutive days. But a zone 2, they have different zones, but zone 2 to zone 3, so high-end aerobic type of training. And this was at altitude. This was at, over 7,000 feet, 2,000 meters on a crushed gravel surface. Not perfectly flat, but pretty flat. It's probably more flat than Javelina is going to be. So that was long run number 1, September 24th. Now, the next day on Strava, September 25th, 2025, I went up to Boulder partly to visit a serious runner, aka Steven Gnoza, my friend, who was gracious enough to film a lot of this long run. It ended up being a 50K long run doing loops around the Boulder Reservoir, the res, so to speak, on a fairly sunny, hot day. It was probably in the 70s and sunny. I waited till in the afternoon to run. I was in my Hoka kit, so I wasn't extra dressed with the heat training, but heat training's been a big part of this training block because Javelina is probably going to be hot. But dialing in the fluid and fuel, much like I did on that marathon long run the day before, on tired legs. And so the whole idea with the back-to-back long run structure is that you're trying to develop fatigue resistance, so to speak. So muscular endurance, if you want to call it that. It's been around for decades and decades. That's why we run high mileage. We go into these workouts tired. At Hanson's, they called it cumulative fatigue, right? You weren't just going into these long runs tapered and fresh like you would do on race day. You're going into these long runs doing a 120-mile week or a 100-mile week, or maybe for you, it might be relative to a 30 or 40-mile week, right? And you might have more time on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, to squeeze in moderate, high-intensity, high-end aerobic efforts back-to-back because you just have more time on the weekend, right? If you work a regular 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday, back-to-back long runs can be really key because you have more weekend time, Saturday, Sunday. You could hit, 2 high-quality mileage days, but also relative aerobic quality in a row. And running fast on tired legs is really the name of the game in marathons and ultras from what I've seen, because your glycogen levels are really, you're running in a glycogen depleted state unless you totally carbo load, right? So you're always balancing that fatigue, but there's relative skeletal muscular fatigue and muscle damage even that you need to try to adapt to. So I felt pretty surprisingly fresh on this one. This was my big key long run. And usually with back-to-back long runs, I've used them very sparingly in my training over the years. I think the injury risk is definitely high and the rewards is, it's very marginal, but it is a good simulation of what's going to happen in a 100-mile race. And I'm really trying to push my limits personally with pushing the envelope with the training. So I'm taking some of those injury risks. My calves were a little jacked up, I'm not going to lie. I'm running in the Rocket X3, which is great, fast on these dirt trails and dirt roads. And, Boulder Res pretty flat, but pretty hot day. So dialing in that, carrying the fluid bottles in the naked belt. You could see Steven got some great film clips of my first 2 or 3 laps. I was doing basically 6-mile, 10K loops around the res using my car as an aid station, trying to go really fast with the transitions, dumping water on my head to simulate ice water dumps that we're going to probably use in the race, as well as ice bandanas. But running on fatigued legs, and not only that, I'm challenging myself even more. Still trying to keep the heart rate low. As you can see, that from the Coros Training Hub, total stress was higher that week, but still relatively a big distribution of zone 2 and easier types of mileage. So a lot of the easy days are easy, but these hard days are faster and harder during the long run because I want to simulate a pace that's faster than my 100-mile goal race pace, even though it will be at sea level. It's going to be hot at Javelina. There's going to be a little more climbing, and it's going to be 100 miles all at once instead of just 50K. So the extra challenge, though, with this was to take in, over 100 grams of carbs per hour. We're doing the gut training. We're trying to drink quite a bit, maybe 600, 800 milliliters of fluid per hour. I've got a carb solution drink mix that I make myself, and carrying that weight with you. So I'm carrying my iPhone. Don't want to do that during the race. Don't have to at Javelina. Carrying car keys, carrying extra gels, carrying a liter of fluid, like I said, in my naked belt, which didn't bounce around at low 6-minute mile pace, which is pretty phenomenal. I'll put the average kilometer pace there of this 50K long run. But I was doing pace surges. So after a half marathon or so, in like maybe a little over 90, 95 minutes, I go into launching in alternating miles, which I call, where I'm doing an up-tempo mile. That's 1.6 kilometers. Maybe it was around 6 flat. I actually cracked 6 minutes on a couple of these miles. So I did 6 times 1 mile, 1 mile up tempo, 1 mile float. And my float miles actually ended up being like 640 per mile pace. Whereas some of the up tempo miles I went 547 or 546 at mile 21. Steven caught me on, I think my second up tempo mile is about a 550 there on the dirt roads at altitude in Boulder on a hot day. But that's running on tired legs. That's running, trying to transition. Don't want to make those surges during a race necessarily, but it's about dialing in that muscular fatigue and giving yourself confidence that you could accelerate, or you could at least try to hold pace more evenly in a 100-mile ultra. Because in the past, I faded exponentially. I faded really bad. Maybe after 30 miles, 40 miles, I've dropped out. I've had stomach distress. I've had, a lot of muscular pain. I think that's kind of inevitable, but we're trying to build that fatigue resistance. We're trying to dial in, eating and drinking while we're breathing relatively hard. Again, lactate's not the limiting factor. It's not, you shouldn't be going anaerobic. You shouldn't have acidosis, but there's still some element of aerobic power and breathing efficiency, running economy, as we like to call it. I call it in my Sage Running Secret book that Sandy and I co-authored, again, product plug, variable running economy. It's not an official scientific term, but it's the idea that if you take a snapshot, an instantaneous picture of your running efficiency at any given moment in a race, you don't want to be breaking down too much. You don't want to be inefficient going up hills. You don't want to be inefficient going down hills. You want to try to balance an overall efficiency or an overall running economy that adapts to the terrain, but also adapts to the duration that you've been running. So, again, thanks to Steven for getting these shots out he was testing out his stabilizer, but he got me in the first part of this long run on a hot day in Boulder, and you could see, I'm pushing a bit. I had to work through a little, some pain, definitely. I actually backed this up with a longer long run even last week, which I could get into later. But just getting in the back-to-back long runs on high mileage. And again, we're not just jogging around at zone 2. There's also an element, and this will be a final plug for Coros. If you look in the training hub, you see some zone 3, zone 4. There's some higher pace injections or speed injections, so to speak, that I do. I don't just do long run alternation workouts or steady state up tempo. I'm still going to the track. I'm going to the track tomorrow or on Sunday and doing threshold, real LT1 or LT2 lactate threshold, zone 4 short repeats. I'm doing fartlek workouts or timed interval workouts where I'm surging for 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute intervals. I've done, some other pace change workouts 4 times or 3 times 10 minutes threshold, different breaks where you're pushing 40 to 60 minutes at a high end. That's more LT1 aerobic threshold pace. That's faster than what I'm doing in these long runs. But It's all substantially faster than goal 100-mile race pace, which is more around the zone 2 type of realm. We just can't have skeletal muscular breakdown, right? We don't want to have stomach distress from dehydration. That's plagued me, I think, a lot in the past. I'm trying to dial that in. You get lack of blood flow to the gut, could cause a lot of problems when you're trying to really push your envelope. So that's why I'm doing these things. But you see on the Training Hub, this is also a plug. Check out the new Coros Pace Pro watch. It's got a faster processing speed than the Pace 3, vivid 1.3 AMO LED screen, 30 times faster map and graphic rendering compared to the Apex 2 Pro Killing Edition, which actually I'm wearing right here. But you can see, the map graphics in that super nice. If you're a trail runner, ultra runner, Coros has super long battery life, 38 hours of full GPS mode activity on this bad boy. Check it out. Enter code SAGE, load GPS watch with purchase. Thanks to Coros for sponsoring me, helping me produce these videos, as well as title sponsor Hoka, keeping the dream alive. Hope to see you at Javelina. Let me know how your training's going, or if you're training for something. We got the Chicago Marathon this weekend, a lot of great events. Any surface, any distance, you know me. I'm gonna keep these vlogs going. Final shout out, thanks to Steven Gnoza for all those film clips on my Boulder 50K long run. That was the second long run in this back-to-back series. Check out his channel, give him a follow. The Serious Runner, he's also got the Serious Show channel. Give him a follow on Instagram up there too. All the links will be in the description below. Big shout out to Steven. Thank you again for all your support. The Patreon support on here really means the world to me. Love to hear how you guys are doing. Love to keep doing these events, any service, any distance. Check out our training plans at higherrunning.com. That is a business plug. And stay tuned for more via 2Max Productions.